This episode of the Trek Geeks Podcast is brought to you by the Trek Geeks Shop. Now you can help support our show and get yourself some cool Star Trek gear at the same time. Check out our line of t-shirts, mugs, hats, and other items for your inner Trek geek at shop.trekgeeks.com.
Hi, I'm Monumente Reme. That's Unam Imnaritni backwards, and I played Icheb on Star Trek Voyager. You're listening to the Trek Geeks Podcast with Bill Smith and Dan Davidson.
The biggest little show this side of the Alpha Quadrant. Welcome, one and all, to the Trek Geeks Podcast, and episode number 78. I'm your co-host, Bill Smith, and joining me is my illustrious co-host. You know, if I were going to recast him, I'd have to pick somebody who, well, had a decent command of the English language, and who had a sense of humor, and who spoke in complete sentences. And I think that narrows my choices down to just about everybody else on the planet other than the beautiful and talented Dan Davidson. Dan, welcome aboard, buddy.
So you don't think I have a sense of humor? You're a jerk. Hey, before we get into anything, happy birthday, pal.
Thank you.
As we record, it is your birthday weekend, and I hope you had a great day yesterday. Always a special day for you to be celebrating your birthday with your beautiful bride, and I hope you had a good one.
Well, thank you. Actually, it was a day where I did not much of anything, and it was everything I hoped it could be.
So pretty much every day of the week for you, then.
Yeah. Hey, I'm just trying to be who I am.
Well, I hope you had a good day, and a good day today.
Thanks. Tonight we're going out for dinner to celebrate. We figure Sunday the restaurants aren't as busy.
Yes.
So it'd probably be easier to, not fight for a table or wait for an hour. So we're going to go to one of those Japanese hibachi restaurants.
Yes, fun.
Yeah. So That'll be good.
Awesome. Well, have a great time.
Well, thank you. I intend to, because I'm not driving.
Oh, so you're going to have a little sake, maybe?
Well, here at this restaurant, what they do is they have a super soaker filled with sake.
Yes.
And they pretty much shoot people with it.
Yes, I have seen that.
Yeah.
It's going to be good times.
Good times.
Well, have a good time. Congratulations on yet another year of dealing with me, and we'll see what happens next.
That's really the present, isn't it?
It is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yay me, happy birthday.
Goodness gracious.
And I'm the perfect Star Trek age this year, I might add.
You are.
47.
47.
So we're both 47 now.
We are. Thanks for telling everybody.
That's because you're old.
Yeah, okay. By a week. No, 2 weeks. Sorry.
And so when I find your replacement, they should also be good at math.
Wow. Okay.
You need to have more coffee, buddy.
I do need more coffee.
Dan, the other thing you need is more feedback and communication from the fine folks who listen to the Trek Geeks podcast. How might they get those messages of caffeinated wisdom to you, sir?
Your ability to segue is just amazing. I love it. Yes.
Don't try this at home.
All right, sorry. Yes, on Twitter, Facebook, and Skype, our handle is Trek Geeks. You can also send us an email at trekgeeks@starfleet.com, or you can call us at 508-784-1701 to leave us a voicemail, or you can go to speakpipe.com/trekgeeks and leave a message there. Also, you can now join our official Our official Camp Kittimer Facebook group. Yeah, let's try that again. You can also join our official Facebook group, Camp Kittimer. A lot of great discussion going on there. Always new people coming in just about every day at this point, so it's pretty cool. You get early access to these here Trek Geek podcasts. And to join the group, just go to facebook.com/groups/Camp Kittimer. And just remember that any comments or messages you leave us, including happy birthday songs to the birthday boy, may be used in a future episode. Bill, back to you.
Thank you, Dan. And by the way, I was going through the messages today, and I heard all of those songs you left me, and none of them are fit for broadcast because they'd be one giant, long, continuous bleep. So thanks, buddy.
Wow. Okay. You're welcome. Every once in a while, I just have to tell you how I really feel.
Dan, it's time for the news from our good friends at treknews.net. Spanning the quadrant.
Wow.
Looking for the greatest stories in Star Trek news. We hope you all stop by treknews.net. They are our first stop, and they should be yours, quite frankly. Don't you agree, Dan?
I agree 100%, but I got to say the first story we have today isn't what I would tag the greatest news, even though it's from the greatest news site for Trek News.
It's reported incredibly well.
It is. They do such a great job of taking something that isn't awesome and making it sound awesome. Would that be a good? Yeah. Yeah, for all you animated series fans, you're finally going to get the animated series on Blu-ray. How about that? Yeah. November 15th, the entire series will be released on Blu-ray, all 22 episodes. There's going to be some special audio commentary and some special text commentary as well as some special features such as Drawn to the Final Frontier. Get it? See what they did there? Thank you, Ed. The making of Star Trek, the animated series. There's going to be some storyboard galleries, and also packaged with this set is going to be 22 art cards designed by Juan Ortiz. So big fans of the animated series, get ready for November 15th because your day is coming.
I do have to say I'm a big fan of Juan Ortiz and his artwork.
Yes, he does great stuff.
I think that's a fantastic add to that. If they were going to put this on Blu-ray, I'm of the mindset that they should have fixed things like Nurse Chapel's one red sleeve.
Yes. Or Scotty having a mustache in one scene, and 2 seconds later, the mustache is gone, but then it's back the next scene.
Yeah. I mean, there are so many continuity errors in the animated series, just visually. I'm not even talking about with regard to Star Trek canon.
Right.
That it's like, really? And now I get they were rushing it out the door, but come on, guys.
I can just picture Drozen picking it up on the 15th of November and sitting there watching that stupid Megas 2 episode over and over again.
Do you think he's going to camp out? So here's what we need to do. We need to find out where he's going to be. We need to pay someone to pick him up enough hamburgers to get him through that wait.
Right.
And then he needs to, video the whole thing, first person, his purchase.
I think that's a good idea, but I do have to say, I don't think there's going to be a line.
What are you talking about? That's like sacrilege.
Sorry. It'll be wrapped around the Best Buy building. I'm sorry.
What else comes out the same day?
In all seriousness, fans, we did our review of the animated series several podcasts ago, and it was much better the next time I saw it than I originally remembered. But still, Blu-ray, okay.
Yeah. I figured that they had to release it standalone Blu-ray since they were putting it in the 50th anniversary box set of the TOS years.
Right.
So, but I mean, I still wish we'd get Deep Space Nine and Voyager on Blu-ray before the animated series. And
right.
I don't think we ever will.
I don't either. And that's a shame. Big shame.
And certainly not the way that Next Generation was treated with, remastering and some, new special effects and cleaned up. I don't think we'll ever see that.
All right. Thanks for ruining my day.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's my birthday, so too bad.
That's right.
Well, then, Dan, we don't have another news item, but we did want to talk briefly about a special mention that you and I got this week on LinkedIn. Now, we don't want to be those guys who go, hey, we got some great press, but the article itself is about so much more than just this podcast.
Yeah, it is. It's a very great article. First of all, we want to thank Brian Donlin for writing the article, and he posted it on LinkedIn. And basically, what this article is all about is he mentioned that he was preparing for a marathon, so he decided to listen to some podcasts, and ours came up, so he decided to take a listen, and it happened to be our Trek 50 episode, which we are both extremely proud of. And listening to the episode really got him thinking about his first Trek and how Trek allows people to connect and form relationships. It was a very, very humbling article, I thought, and I was thrilled that we were both mentioned in it, and it really did cover a topic that is very that means a lot to both of us, I think.
I think so. I think that the paragraph that resonated the most with me, and I hate it when people read things from stories on podcasts, but I'm about to do that. And it's a short paragraph, so bear with me, but it talks directly about the content of the Trek 50 episode. And it begins, "The podcast was not filled with people who needed a life. Rather, it was replete with people who embraced life because of Star Trek. Sure, there was commentary about why Deep Space Nine was better than Voyager and the like. The majority of stories and memories were of fans talking about how they watched the show with their fathers or brothers or mothers. Yet these fans treasure this sci-fi classic for how it brought them together with their family members, many of whom had passed away." That really kind of nails what the episode is about for me, Dan. It's the uniting power of Star Trek. It's the part of it that has caused us to create so many great relationships in our lives with family and friends. And I'm just, overwhelmed and genuinely thankful that Brian highlighted that aspect.
Couldn't said it better myself, sir. That was very well said. And you're right. The relationships that form when we were young with family members like your brother and my brother, and how those relationships continue to grow, and then new relationships have formed, as I saw firsthand a couple years ago at my first Vegas convention with all the new friends, and it is because of Star Trek. So very, very honored and as I said, humbled for Brian to mention us in this article, and can't thank him enough.
No, without a doubt. If you haven't read the article, it's on our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/TrekGeeks. I think it's also in Camp Kittimer, and if not, it will be by the time you hear this. So you can join Camp Kittimer and see it there. But we truly can't thank Brian Donlin enough for his thoughtful essay on Star Trek and about fandom. Dan, this is a topic you and I have debated and thought about for quite a while. And we had no idea we were going to make a full episode. Episode?
How's that recast coming?
Yeah, it's going great. We had no idea we were going to make a full episode out of this until we were putting together our Ask Us Anything.
That is correct. Jason from North Carolina actually sent us a question when we were asking for topics to talk about in the Ask Us Anything episode. And he asked who we would recast in a series and why. Or how we would recast a series, I guess is the best way to put it. And we talked about it as we were going through the episode outline. And I said, man, this could be a whole episode in itself because there could be a lot to talk about. So we felt it warranted a dedicated episode. So here we are. There's so many possibilities. I mean, it's just amazing what we could do with any series.
It really is. And honestly, you know, you and I weren't on the same page initially with regard to which episode to do first.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where you did one cast and we said, all right, let's just go with it. And I found it was going to be, for me personally, the toughest one to do because I love this series so much.
I thought that's what made the challenge all that much greater, and why I wanted to do this series first is because it is our favorite series and it is a challenge. And I got to tell you, it was a challenge for a couple of the characters. I was really going back and forth, and I'm sure we're going to get into it. Tough ones that we had. But why not start with the best? So we decided to do Deep Space Nine. I had to twist your arm a little bit, I think.
We decided?
No. I had to twist your arm, and finally the executive producer in me came out, and I just kind of had to put my foot down.
There we are. We have it on, well, not on tape, but we have it recorded that you have admitted you're the executive producer.
Well, you didn't let me finish.
Congratulations,
The executive producer in me preparing for Star Trek Discovery's podcast came out in me. I kind of overstepped my boundary a little, and I kind of time jumped a little bit. So that's what I meant.
Are you sure you're not a politician?
That was pretty good, wasn't it?
That was a presidential style pivot. We're
gonna make podcasting great again.
That was a John Kerry-esque pivot. That was beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So yes, we are going to recast Deep Space Nine. So I'm not quite sure how you approached gathering your cast, but let me tell you how I kind of approached mine, and we'll see if the methodologies, kind of coincide.
Okay.
I decided to look at actors who have been doing a lot of television work recently. And there are a couple of exceptions, but largely all of these people are actors and actresses you can see in television projects within the last handful of years.
Okay.
Does that kind of match up with what you did, or did you kind of approach it differently?
I did it similar but differently. How's that? There's that politician again.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah. For the most part, a lot of my choices are current television and movie actors and actresses. I kind of mix both of them together. The other thing that I wanted to do, and I don't know if a cop-out is the right words for it, is all of the characters and all of the people that I chose are similar to what we are used to seeing with the characters on Deep Space Nine. By that I mean, for O'Brien, for example, we'll get into who I picked later, but I didn't decide to do someone who wasn't Irish. I decided to stick with that similar point, I guess is the best way to describe it. Could have been much more interesting if we decided to do it differently and have a completely new cast that we had never seen these characters before, so we didn't know what to expect, but I kind of kept them along what we're used to seeing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you mean what we're used to seeing visually?
No, actually, not so much visually, but more the character development and what we are familiar with. Like, for example, Kira is a real badass freedom fighter, terrorist type character. So I picked someone who that makes me think of the Kira we know,
I understand.
on roles that this other actress has played.
So you stayed true to the aspects of the character and didn't make any rewrites to the character. You instead tried to find actors and actresses who you thought could convey those facets well. Is that a fair statement?
That is a very fair statement. And I think if we do this in the future with another series, I may take a different approach to it. But for Deep Space Nine, I wanted to go that route.
I did a very similar methodology with regard to that.
Okay.
I didn't change any of the aspects of the characters. There might be a couple of cases where somebody's maybe a little older or younger than the original actor cast, but I thought that was okay.
Okay. Good. Nice.
So that said, why don't we get started? We're going to take it one character at a time and explain why we chose this particular person. And I figure we're going to save the captain for the end.
Okay.
Because in Deep Space Nine in particular, that's the pivotal character in the entire series because it is Benjamin Sisko's journey.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay, so let's start with Jake then.
Okay.
You know, he's a character who is not in every episode, but certainly plays an important part in Sisko's life. Dan, who did you choose to be recast as Jake Sisko?
Well, this is an interesting one for me. This is one that I fought with for a long time, and I'm actually going to give you two. And not because I couldn't decide, but I decided to go, let's give a Jake Sisko. And I did do a little switch up with this one. I decided to do what would Captain Sisko's child, who would play his child if it was a girl? So we have a daughter instead of a son. I know it can kind of skew what some of the episodes would have been like because there are some Jake-centric episodes that deal with him specifically being in a relationship. But I decided to try it anyway. So for male, I decided to go with Malcolm David Kelly, who was Walt in Lost.
Interesting.
Very similar actor. You see him grow up on screen pretty much when he's in Lost, and I think that he fits the Jake role very well from what we see him in Lost. Now, I will be completely honest. I don't think I've seen him in anything else but Lost, so that might kind of closet my choice. But I see him being a Jake Sisko very easily.
Plus, he's like 30 now, so he could play old Jake.
Yes, absolutely. I think Tony Todd is not needed anymore.
Okay, so then who did you pick as the possible alternate Jake?
Alternate Jake, I don't know if we want to call her Jacqueline or something like that. I have no idea. But I decided I went back in time a little bit. And when I was when my kids were growing up and we would have dinner at night and then we go downstairs and watch TV, we always watched That's So Raven. The kids loved that show. So I actually chose a young Raven Simone to be the Sisko daughter.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now that can be a tough one. I got a couple funny looks when I told my wife about it because she's a very specific actress. You know, she's got more comedy in her, I think, maybe than the role of a Sisko on a space station. But I just felt that it would be one of those throw in a little bit something you're not expecting moments by having her as my choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Well, how about you, man?
I went for a more conventional choice, and the person I chose is probably a bit too old at this point, and by that I mean just a little, because Sirach Lofton was fairly young when he took on the part of Jake Sisko. Mm-hmm. And he still had a little bit of that kid in him. But I think I would choose Jaden Smith, you know, son of Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith, who was in the reboot of Karate Kid and who was in After Earth with his dad. I think that he would be a halfway decent choice for Jake Sisko, especially given whom I've selected later on as Benjamin. So I think it's a part he could carry well and maybe add a little bit less of the Wesley quality, if you will, that sort of eagerness.
Yes.
So I think it's a safe selection, but I think it's one that could work in the grand scheme of things.
Oh, I definitely think that could work. I think that's a great choice. I'll give you a 9 out of 10 on that one. How's that?
Oh, thank you, Dan. I think I'll give you a 7 and a 6.5.
Wow, really?
Well, it was the East German judge.
Okay. Good choice. Good start.
All right, so one down. About 100 more to go because it's Deep Space Nine. No, I'm kidding.
Just kidding.
So, Dan, let's move on to the chief medical officer of the space station. So, of course, Dr. Julian Bashir, originally played by Alexander Siddig or Siddig El Fadil, depending on which season you're watching.
Mm-hmm.
Same actor, different names.
Right.
But I think I'll go first on this one.
Sure.
I tried to choose an actor that was roughly the same age that Sid was when he got the part of Bashir. And I wrestled with this one for a long time because there were a lot of choices that went through my mind. You know, I thought about looking at like Bollywood actors first because I thought that the character should stay true to that region.
Okay.
But there was nobody with any recognizable name value to me. So then I tried to find, you know, actors of Indian descent that have been in projects over the last handful of years. And I don't know why this choice escaped me initially, but it was actually this morning as I was making my coffee. I'm like, oh, I know who I'd cast as Bashir, and the person I ultimately chose was actor Dev Patel, who was in Slumdog Millionaire and also in The Newsroom on HBO. Right now, he's the age, he's the age that is pretty close to what Sid was when he got the part, and I think it's something he could work some real magic with because he's a great actor.
Okay. Excellent. I initially was going to go that route and choose someone similar, but I couldn't think of anybody, and when I was doing some searching to try to see if anything would pique my interest, I didn't recognize anybody that I thought would be good to play the role of Bashir. So I didn't go that route. I went with an actor who has been in a similar type role, but is just, American male, and I chose Nicholas Hoult, and I'm not sure if you recognize that name. But
initially. He
played Beast in the X-Men First Class movies, the ones that take place in like the 60s.
Interesting.
He's a great character actor, I think, in what I've seen. And as the Beast, he's a doctor, and he's nervous and confident at the same time, and he wants to hide his mutation, which is similar to Bashir wanting to hide his genetic engineering. So I thought it was a good fit. He's young. He's about the age of Bashir in Deep Space Nine. So that was my choice. Kind of a doctor in the X-Men movies, but chief medical officer for Deep Space Nine.
Interesting. Yeah. I had a tough choice with that one because
it was hard.
At first I thought of like Cal Penn, and I'm like, well, I don't think that he kind of fits the Bashir role. I mean, he's done drama. He's doing drama right now on Designated Survivor. And then I also thought of an actor like James Callis, who was on Battlestar Galactica as Baltar.
Okay, yep.
But he didn't look like Bashir to me, although he certainly could play it incredibly well. So that's kind of how I wound up with Dev Patel, but your choice is interesting to me.
Well, thank you.
That's a good one.
I like it. It's funny that you say that. He does kind of remind me of Bashir a little bit.
Which one?
The guy who played Baltar.
Yeah. Doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Especially in his vocal quality.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, another good choice for you, man. That's good.
Well, thank you so much. Knocking it out of the park today. What was that?
That was a very poor bat hitting a ball.
That was terrible.
That was terrible. No, that wasn't good either. Moving on.
All right, how about we stop with the sound effects? Poor Brian on his run training for his marathon.
Sorry,
He's probably
Brian.
going deaf right now.
We're dropping down like flies now, aren't we?
I know, like a rock. So, Dan, let's move on to a character that joined Deep Space Nine later on, but still was a series regular. And, of course, I'm talking about Worf.
Okay.
Now, as we all know, Michael Dorn came over from Next Gen after really not wanting to wear the makeup again and said, the heck with it. I'll sign on for 4 more years of this. So Worf, obviously a very pivotal character from the time they introduced him through the Dominion War. And if Michael Dorn's not going to play him, who is, sir?
Well, this choice might be one that a lot of people choose. And I was not going to choose this actor, but decided, you know what? I see him in the role perfectly. I think he'd be great. We saw him recently, of course, in Star Trek Beyond, and that would be Idris Elba. I think he would be a good Worf. He's got a very Klingon quality to him. And I honestly love his voice. I think his voice is just really powerful. And I think he would play a great Klingon. And he might be the popular choice right now because he's like the guy that everybody wants in their movies. But that would be my choice. I'd like to see what he looks like in that Klingon makeup.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't think we'd ever get him.
Oh, no. No, not unless you want to pay him like $20 million an episode.
Yeah, not happening.
Yeah.
For Worf, I took a bit of a different thought process. And I went for somebody that is in a series right now on Netflix that actually just dropped this weekend.
Oh, yes.
And initially I'd seen this actor on The Good Wife playing a longtime drug dealer, sort of a kingpin. Mm-hmm. And this weekend, he turns up in Marvel's Luke Cage as the title character. And I'm speaking, of course, of Mike Colter. I think that he could really do an amazing job with Worf because not only does he have that intensity, but he also has that physicality that I think that the character needs. I'd love to see him in Klingon makeup because I think he'd add a whole new dimension to Worf, and I think that he could play it without bad teeth.
That's a very good point. We know how you love those Klingon teeth, man.
Oh my God. Now, I did have a runner-up that I had in mind for a while, but ultimately I ruled him out because although I think he'd look good as Worf, I don't think that he'd play the character the way I'd want to see it done. And that was Shamar Moore, most recently from Criminal Minds.
Interesting. Okay.
Because he's a big guy, he's a very physical guy. He's certainly a talented actor, but I just don't know if he'd square up with Worf the way I think that Mike Coulter would.
Right. For a runner-up for me, this was a very low runner-up. I just didn't think it would work other than the voice. I always have enjoyed movies with Michael Duncan Clark. But he's just not he's too big to be Worf, I think. I mean, he's such a big, strong guy, and I didn't think that would work, so that didn't stay on my list too long. But the voice is something that that resonates with me. Get it? For the character of Worf.
Well, and unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago, so there's no way we could get him for a recast, and what a terrible situation that was.
Yeah, that was awful. But then again, I also took this list as the actor or actress that we choose doesn't necessarily have to be from this current time frame, and could be somebody who's passed.
See, I did, because the idea is to recast the series for today.
Today? Okay. Gotcha.
So, way to go.
So my young Raven Simone couldn't work, basically, is what you're saying.
No.
Well, all right. So starting next week with Bill Smith's Trek Geek Podcast by himself.
That sounds like a show I would listen to all day long.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I'm so excited.
Sorry,
Thank
that's
you
not your birthday present. That's never happening.
Oh. Well, Dan, pressing on.
Yes.
We have a character that when the series was first announced, I didn't know that I was fully on board with. And then I saw how Armin Shimmerman played Quark, and I understood how absolutely essential he was, or the character was, to that story.
Okay.
This is one I had an absolute bear of a time trying to recast, because I'm trying to think of somebody who could play Quark at least as well as Armin, and it's really, really tough.
Okay.
So I'll give my pick first,
Yes.
but did you have as difficult a time?
Nope.
Trying to cast? Really?
Nope. I thought it when I was going through the list. I will say that I created my list of characters of the ones that we were choosing, and I forgot to include Quark, to be honest, and I really feel bad about that. But when I realized that I didn't have Quark on my list and I added it, I had the name in like 10 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, see, the killer thing is here that Armin Shimmerman could still play Quark.
Yes, he could. Absolutely.
Today.
Mm-hmm.
It would lose nothing,
I agree.
But I almost put that as an answer, but I figured that would be a cop-out, because the idea is to recast.
True. Well, I'm glad you didn't do it then.
Well, thank you. I chose an actor that I think has gotten better as his career as an actor has gone on. And although I'm not a huge fan of this particular actor, I think that with the right direction, he actually could do something really interesting with this character. And so I chose Christian Slater from Mr. Robot.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because I think that he could add a dimension to that character that would be a really different take on it. And of course it would, obviously in many things, Christian Slater seems like he's just Christian Slater.
Yeah, true.
But I think in Mr. Robot, he's been really, really great. And that's really what made me kind of consider him for a part like this, because it's more character driven. It's, there's the makeup quality. He's got the potential to create something unlike anything he's ever done before. And I think that that's a challenge he could rise to.
Okay. And he's been in Star Trek before.
He has.
Yes.
That helps when your mom does casting. Or aunt, or whatever she was.
Yeah. Interesting pick. That's very interesting. I would never have thought of him in a million years.
Me either, almost.
Almost. It was that 999,000th year that you got to you.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, mine was quick. I knew it as soon as I typed the word Quark on my computer, and I picked Steve Buscemi.
Really?
Yep. And for a couple of reasons. First of all, just the look of him, I think, is perfect for Ferengi, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think he could fit the character or being a Ferengi perfectly. Second is he's got some goofy characteristics about him that I've always liked as an actor, but at the same time, he's got some really strong and kind of scary roles that he's played that have showed him to be a very strong character, like in The Empire. I think that's what it's called. Is it Empire? No, it's
Boardwalk Empire.
Boardwalk Empire. Thank you. And I think him playing Quark to have those quirky complaining, I'm always, being picked on, plus his strong love of Ferengi society. I think that he would be able to play that role with those two different aspects of his character very, very well. So I picked him, and you wouldn't have to put fake teeth in his mouth to be a Ferengi.
Well, you know what sold Christian Slater for me was I thought about him potentially being Quark in the one scene from The Way of the Warrior, the season 4 episode, season premiere, where Quark and Garrick are talking about the insidiousness of the Federation and comparing it to root beer.
Yep.
And I thought that if that were the scene I was going to use as my benchmark, I thought that Slater would do really well in that scene, and that's what got me to thinking.
All right. I can see that.
Yeah, and I can see the same thing with Buscemi, though, too.
I just think he would just be, oh my gosh, I would love to see him in Klingon makeup someday.
Klingon or Ferengi?
I'm sorry, Ferengi. Yeah, Ferengi makeup. Or Klingon. Klingon would be kind of funny, too.
He'd be the most neurotic Klingon of all time.
Absolutely. Yep.
Well, Dan, we're about almost through half the cast.
Right.
How you feeling about your picks so far?
I'm feeling really good about my picks. Of course, can't have young Raymond Simone because of your dumb rules, but other than that, I'm feeling really good.
My dumb rules, yeah. Of course, when you recast a series, you want to go back in time.
Hey, it is Star Trek, right?
Don't get me
Slingshot
started.
effect, orb of time. We got all kinds of ways, Pally.
Pally. Thank you, Vic Fontaine. So, Dan, moving on, this is one of the other characters I had an unbelievably hard time with. And we're talking about Chief Miles O'Brien.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
This is the one that literally took me the longest. I racked my brain about this one for days.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I'm still not 100% sure of my pick, so I'm looking forward to hearing yours.
Oh, I feel the same way about mine, though, man.
Well, then why don't you tell us who you selected?
I'm going to tell you who I thought of selecting first, and I actually was going back and forth right up until we started recording this morning. I just could not decide if it would be good or not. It was very difficult. This is one of those ones I was going to go outside the box and not choose someone who is Irish. But then looking at a list of Irish actors, he actually is listed there, so I guess that wouldn't have made sense. But I originally was going to choose Ben Stiller, which I just didn't feel good about the whole time I had the list. I'm like, no, I just don't know if that's going to work. So I eventually went with my second choice, who I also went back and forth with because of his current age, and decided, you know what? Sorry to break your rules again, but I'm going to go with a younger version of this guy, and that would be Liam Cunningham. And for those who may not be familiar with that name, he plays Davos in Game of Thrones.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's a very strong-willed character. He's a right-hand man type of guy, at least in Game of Thrones. I like this actor. I like how he does his performances, and that's who I ended up choosing for O'Brien. Now, he's 55 right now, so he's a little older than O'Brien, of course, but I still think that he'd be good.
What a fantastic actor he is, too, by the way.
Yeah, I think he's great.
I think that's a good pick, even if you're going to time travel. And I think it's okay if O'Brien's a little older.
True.
because yes, he's married to Keiko and they're just starting a family, but this is the future.
That's true. The other thing before we get into your pick that I thought that made it difficult as to whether this would be a good choice for O'Brien is let's face it, O'Brien is like the punching bag of Deep Space Nine. He's always getting into trouble. He's getting tortured. He's getting captured. And I didn't know if this actor fit that role, but I think that's because I was looking at him from a Davos perspective in Game of Thrones. So I decided, you know what? I don't want to look at him specifically as that character that I'm familiar with, but as the actor itself. So that's why I decided to go with him.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for clarifying, Dan.
Anything I can do to help.
Well, we know that's not true.
Who'd you pick, man?
Well, it's funny you say that. I didn't pick the same actor as you, but I actually tried to pick somebody from Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one I went back and forth on for a while because you want somebody who can sort of play that long-suffering character, like the Chief O'Brien we know.
Right.
But I wanted somebody who could add maybe a different element to the character. And so if you watched Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this week, you saw them introduce a new director, or if you saw the Fox series Terra Nova, you've seen this guy, or perhaps the ABC short-lived version of Life on Mars. And I'm talking about actor Jason O'Mara. He doesn't often sound Irish because he plays a lot of Americanized roles. He, too, actually was in The Good Wife at one point, sounding Irish, so I know that, he really is from Ireland. But, he's probably closer to our age, which I think is good. He's, certainly a character that could play Chief O'Brien, perhaps have a little bit more of an action element because he's a fairly tall guy. But I'm still, like I said, I'm still not 100% sold on this pick, but if I were starting my search, I probably would start with him. And if he wound up in the role, I think I'd be okay with it.
Okay. I'm not sure if my dog Aria agrees with you because she's barking her head off right now, and I apologize about that. But no, that's an interesting choice.
She is a discerning fan of Star Trek, let's just be honest.
Don't ever walk by my house, folks, if you're ever in Maine, because my dog's going to do that. So just sorry. But no, that's a very interesting...
Aside from the fact that you live there, don't walk by.
Wow. Okay. That's a very interesting choice. That's another one that I would never have picked in a million years.
And he's not 100 years old.
Okay. Wow.
So, Dan, we have 4 characters left. We're past the halfway point, and we're kind of getting into the, some of the more interesting selections and characters now.
Yeah, we're getting into the meat and potatoes of the cast, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So let's when coming up with this list, we made a conscious decision to go with the series regulars in the first 6 seasons. So we would recast Jadzia, but not Ezri.
Right.
So now we're going to take a look at Lieutenant Dax, the science officer of Deep Space Nine, played so amazingly by Terry Farrell for 6 years. One of my favorite Star Trek characters of all time, and perhaps my favorite DS9 character. So I thought about this one for a long time, too. I'll go first with this one.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I'll give you my pick. I thought about a couple of people, and I did not settle on this person, but my first thought was the woman on the blacklist, Megan Boone.
Oh, nice. Yep.
I thought that she would have been a good pick. And then I sat back and I thought about it. It's like, well, Dax has this really acerbic wit. And there's sarcasm that comes from Dax. And on top of all that drama and seriousness, Dax has this variety of layers. And so ultimately I chose somebody that I know is really good with lighter moments in addition to some more serious ones. And I settled on Kobe Smulders from How I Met Your Mother, and she also played Agent Maria Hill in the Avengers movie.
Oh, okay. I was going to say I'm not sure who that was, but as soon as you said Avengers movie, that's a very interesting choice.
I think that she could play Dax amazingly well. I think that she's got, as an actor, many of those qualities that Terry has. And I think it would be a great updating of that role. But that's just me.
Huh, that's interesting. Well, again, this one for me, this was the most difficult choice for me.
Really?
Even more so than O'Brien. I just could not. I went back and forth with so many, and I'll tell you the truth. I had who I was going to choose while you were talking, and I decided to change it back to one of my runner-ups while you were discussing your choice.
All right, now wait a second. You have given me crap before during a See It or Skip It for changing my vote midstream.
This isn't See It or Skip It.
No, so this is okay? You can just make a casting decision or redecision on the fly as we're recording?
Sure, why not? It's recasting a series.
I don't ever want grief from you ever again.
That's not going to happen. I'm sorry. Actually, as I think about it, I'm gonna give you my who I pick right now and who I had a few minutes ago, and I want you to tell me which one you think would be a better fit.
Okay.
All right. Now, I'm going to give you my third choice also of who I had, but I didn't keep her on the list very long, and that was Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones, Daenerys Targaryen. I just didn't, the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, no, I just don't know. What I was looking for, to be very honest, is I wanted to find a very strong female actress. Dax was, for all intents and purposes, the sex symbol of Deep Space Nine, because we know after Next Generation there was one of those characters in each series. So I wanted to pick someone who was a strong actress, who had the attractiveness that the characters had in the series, like Terry. So I went with her, but then I said, no, I'm not going to do that. The person who I was going to choose and then changed just a few moments ago was actually Charlize Theron, because she's a very strong female actress. She has very strong characters in a lot of the roles that she's played, and she's very layered, as you mentioned that you liked that character of Dax is very layered. But I didn't see the sarcasm, wit, humor aspect of that actress in this role. So I changed it last minute. And it's very difficult. I really don't have a strong pick for this, because this one has flaws in it too, I think. So I'd like to see what you think. I actually would choose Emily Bett Rickards to play Jadzia. And she is the actress who plays Felicity Smoke on Arrow.
I think that is a fantastic pick, and I'm glad you changed it.
Oh, good. All right. She's hysterical in Arrow. I love her humor. I love her sarcasm. She's a very strong character in Arrow. She's Oliver's right-hand woman, and she's there to help him when he needs help, but she's also there to give him criticism when it's needed. And I think that the character of Felicity Smoke, played by Emily, is a perfect choice for Jadzia. But I was kind of nervous because I didn't know if it was too much humor and too much sarcasm of the role that she plays in Arrow, and would it be a fit for Jadzia. But I'm really glad you like it.
I think that's your best pick yet.
Really?
Honestly. Yeah.
Excellent.
That's a fantastic pick. I'm almost jealous of it.
She is my favorite character on that show by far. She is hysterical in that show.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, love her. She's great.
Wow, Dan coming in with a solid number 4 pick.
Wow. So you're going to give me crap for changing it still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you should have been this smart to begin with.
Wow. Okay.
Although I if I have to put those two picks head to head, whether it's, Emily or Kobe, I think either one could do really well in that part.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. Awesome. This is going to be a great show, man. I mean, the TV show, because we're going to call all these people and we're going to recast the series. We're going to do it.
Totally. Maybe we'll start a Kickstarter and do a fan film.
Hey, it's better than being a low-end podcaster, I guess. So
Too soon?
What are you going to do?
Yeah. We'll build our own studio, Coconut Studios.
Oh, wow. But then we're going to change the name every 6 weeks. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we're going to have great patches, believe me. So, Dan, moving on. 3 characters left, and we're going to move on to the Chief of Security for Deep Space Nine. Of course, Constable Odo.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one I had the toughest time with, by far.
Really?
Yeah. Because, let me tell you why. 2 words, Rene Auberjonois.
Yeah, you can't replace him.
Rene Auberjonois is one of my all-time favorite actors, and he's still, whenever he's in anything, one of the best actors on television.
Yeah.
I think he's doing. He has a recurring role, I think, on Madam Secretary.
Madam
right
Secretary,
now,
correct?
which I've not seen, but because I'm not a big Téa Leoni fan, but when Renee's in it, I feel like I should give it a shot. You know what I mean?
I absolutely know what you mean. I have not seen it either, but I've seen his tweets that he's in New York filming Madam Secretary, and I'm like, oh, I got to check it out, and I just haven't.
Yeah. So, Dan, that said, if one of our favorite actors is not going to play Odo, who do you think you would recast in that part?
This was another one that was extremely easy for me to choose, and it's one that as soon as I made it, I didn't think twice about it.
Okay.
And that is Daniel Craig from the latest James Bond movies.
Wow, you really have high and lofty goals for recasting the show.
Yes, I do. He is, I think, personally for me, and this is probably going to ruffle some feathers, he's the best Bond that has ever been. And I'm not saying that Sean Connery wasn't good or anybody else, but he is just the definition of James Bond in my mind. He's in a constant struggle, and he's so suave and debonair, but he's not afraid to show his vulnerabilities when he needs to, and that's Odo. I think Daniel Craig, looking at him through the prism of being James Bond, would instantly be my choice to be Odo in Deep Space Nine recast.
Wow.
Yeah. Very strong feelings on that one.
No, I'm saying wow because you think Daniel Craig is the best James Bond.
Oh, I every one of the movies that he's been in, I have absolutely loved. Absolutely loved. Yeah.
Really? Even Quantum of Solace?
All of them. I've loved all of them. Now, that would be the lowest of the list that he's been on. Skyfall, though, Skyfall is, in my opinion, probably the best Bond movie there was.
False. We were looking for Casino Royale. Still the best of his Bond movies. Still the best.
You think that one is over Skyfall, huh? Interesting.
I do.
Huh.
I do.
All right.
Skyfall is fantastic. Don't get me wrong.
Well, when we start the 007 podcast, that'll be something that we can talk about.
I don't think we're allowed to because I think John Champion has right of first refusal on that. That's all the more reason for us to hate.
I want to get his take on Daniel Craig, definitely.
He talks about James Bond quite frequently on Trek FM, I think, on the 602 Club.
I have to check it out.
Yeah.
Daniel Craig.
So anyway, let's move on to my pick.
Absolutely.
I don't want to talk about Champion anymore.
Wow.
So for Odo, my pick is going to surprise some people. So I went for a really versatile actor who has done some work in the genre, even though it's on a series I can't stand. And Jason in North Carolina can take this as a particular nod for him. But I chose the actor Alan Tudyk from Firefly. Now, aside from Firefly, Alan has been in a wide variety of things and played a number of different characters. He's done it all from comedy to drama to sci-fi, and he is a really great actor. So I think that he could portray the nuance of Odo, particularly, when we start talking about Odo's, feelings for Kira rather well.
Huh.
I think that it would add a layer of empathy to that character that we would appreciate and would still be the Odo that we know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm not a huge fan of his, so I wouldn't have chosen him at all. I wouldn't have even come in to play.
Well, no, because you want to get freaking James Bond.
He is going to be in the new Rogue One movie, though. Star Wars film next year.
What?
Yeah, he is. Alan.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is. I'm looking at it right now.
Alan Tudyk. I thought you were saying Daniel Craig.
Oh, no, Alan Tudyk. No, we're on your pick right now. My pick's done.
Oh, for once, it's about me.
That is an interesting choice. It just maybe it's because I've really only seen him in things where he's more comedic, so I don't see him in the role. But hey, to each his own.
He absolutely can do it.
All right. Okay,
hands down. Plus, he'll be available, I'm sure, because it's not like there's going to be a season 2 of Firefly.
Oh, wow, that was awesome.
No, in all seriousness, I think he's a great actor. I think that he can pretty much do whatever they put in front of him. He actually did a really funny Loot Crate video just this past week. So
I'm looking at a picture of him right now. He definitely could be a changeling.
Yeah,
I think the makeup would work on him.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your vote of confidence.
Still a dumb pick.
Wow. So, Dan, we got two characters left.
The two biggest.
Arguably the two most senior characters on board Space Station Deep Space Nine. And let's go right into it with the first officer, Major or Colonel Kira Nerys, depending on what season you're looking at in the first six. Played by one of our favorite people on the planet and former Trek Geeks guest, Nana Visitor.
Yes.
So I'll take this one first.
Absolutely.
If you want. I tried to find somebody who I thought could convey that same feeling that we get with Kira as somebody who was part of a race that was enslaved and then, was part of a resistance and then fought to keep the Cardassians off of Bajor. And I figured that had to be a really strong actress, somebody with a consistent ability to play really good drama.
Mm-hmm.
And I had one pick on this from the get-go, and I didn't change my mind. I actually changed my mind at all of the other positions except this one at one point or another.
Even Captain Sisko?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So the only person I have ever had in mind to recast as Kira is Paget Brewster from Criminal Minds. She's coming back to the series this season after a couple of seasons away. She was also in the Showtime series Huff with Anton Yelchin.
Okay.
But, her character on Criminal Minds was one of my favorite during the run of the series, and I'm glad they're bringing her back. But more than capable, she certainly can play the lighter moments because she's done enough lighter stuff. But when I think of somebody who could play a former terrorist who is now, one of the leaders of her people, I think that she absolutely could play Kira.
That's a pretty good choice. I didn't think of that one at all.
Thank you.
Like you, this was one that I chose. I made my choice, and I didn't think twice about it. And this would be my choice. I did have a couple that I put in, and I didn't change at all, like Daniel Craig or Steve Buscemi. But I felt that this actress needed to be a very strong actress, a very good, strong female roles in films or TV shows that she's been in. She needed to be tough. She needed to be passionate. And the good thing about Deep Space Nine is that if this person is cast, she won't have to die like she does in every single other movie or show that she's been in. And that choice is Maria Rodriguez, who was in Resident Evil, and she played Ana Lucia in Lost, and she was also in Avatar, for example. That would be my choice for Colonel Kira.
Interesting.
Yeah. I've always liked her stuff. In Lost, she's very doom and gloom, and she's always kind of like the pessimist. But I love her character in that show. Avatar, she's great. Resident Evil, all the stuff that I've ever seen her in, she's really good, and she plays a very strong character. So yeah, that was one of those ones that was very quick choice and one that I stuck with the whole time.
Well, congratulations. That's a good pick.
I do like your Paget Brewster one. That's a very good choice.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, very, very good.
Well, Dan, we've got one pick left.
Oh.
It is the central figure in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I speak, of course, of Commander or Captain Benjamin Sisko. He's a single father. He's a Starfleet officer. He starts off the series at a very interesting place for a central figure in a Star Trek series and ends it in an even more interesting place. Mm-hmm. So that said, knowing that we won't be casting Avery Brooks, who was perfect for the role, I might add.
He was perfect for this role.
Who would you select as Captain Benjamin Sisko?
Well, the person that I chose is somebody that we have talked about a lot. We love what he does. We know that he loves Star Trek, and we think that he would be perfect as a lead role in a Star Trek series, and that is Lance Reddick. He is my choice. I love what this guy does. He was so great in Fringe, and he's so great in Bosch. I can just see him being the Sisko. Nobody can replace Avery, absolutely not. But I can easily see him being this character. We've seen the soft moments with family that he has in Bosch, so he would have that aspect with Jake. He's very strong, powerful in Fringe and in Bosch as what is he, lieutenant? I forget what he is in his rank in Bosch. But I think he would just be fantastic as Sisko. Just awesome.
I think he's a deputy chief in Bosch.
Okay. People are dying out there every day. I could just see him doing it. It's just he's so good in every role that he plays, and he has the look that I think Sisko needs to have.
Excellent. I think that is an outstanding pick. You know I love Lance Reddick.
Mm-hmm.
My pick is going to sound very familiar. And it wasn't the person I initially picked as Benjamin Sisko. Initially, I picked Mike Coulter, but I thought he'd be a better Worf. Because I think that Mike Coulter maybe in the future could be a decent Sisko.
Okay.
But I almost think he's a little too young.
Okay.
So my pick is also the one and only Lance Reddick.
I love it. I knew that we were going to choose the same thing, man. That's great.
It is the only pick on which we lined up for all of the reasons you stated.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
He has that intensity. He has that, that empathy. I think he could kill it with Sisko. He really could.
Absolutely. And, shout out to Star Trek Discovery. There might still be casting availabilities. Give him a call.
I'm sure he'd love to.
Oh my God, that would just be so great. I'm glad you picked the same, man. I did say to you this week, I said I wouldn't be surprised if we picked the same guy for Sisko, but we didn't tell each other any of these picks. So
I'm only surprised that you picked him also.
Oh God. Okay. I got to tell you, you know how I do the album covers, obviously. Yeah. One day I just had some free time, so I found a picture of him and I put him in a Starfleet uniform. It's on my desktop at my work. It's sitting. I have it there. I mean, because he just would be so great as Sisko.
Nice. Well, Dan, that wraps up our recasting Deep Space Nine. If anybody has their own thoughts, they can, of course, always send them to us on Facebook or in email at trekgeeks@starfleet.com, or even if you join our Camp Kittimer group. We actually would love to hear who you would recast for these parts.
I think that would be great. I'd love to get a huge list from everybody to compare, and then we could do another episode over what other people think, or at least a segment.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
That would be very cool.
Well, Dan, this has, been an excellent discussion, but it's all been highlighted by some amazing music that we have each and every week on our show. I speak, of course, of the compositions of the band 5-Year Mission. We can't thank them enough for letting us use their music for each and every episode of Trek Geeks. And seriously, head on out to 5yearmission.net and buy some albums. I was listening to the complete discography at work the other day. It helped get me through.
Wow, that's a good word.
Thank you.
I like that.
Thank you.
We're very lucky to have 5-Year Mission because, at one point, they could have been gone forever. You know why?
I imagine you're going to tell me.
Well, did you see the episode where the entire band, 5-Year Mission, they were put on trial by this omnipotent being called D? And they had to answer charges of being a grievously savage band. And they were almost wiped out of existence. Check it out. Encounter at Fark Point.
So wait, are you the omnipotent D in this analogy?
I did not say that.
I'm asking you.
You can take that as you will, sir. That's just that. I'm just saying what the episode was.
So that's a non-answer answer, right?
We do have a trial coming up, so I figured I might as well have some fun with it beforehand.
I can't wait for this to get added to the stack of discovery. Way to go, Alec.
I'm just going to file a motion to, quell all the discovery like everybody else seems to do.
Yeah, great. That's fantastic. So yeah, please head on out to 5yearmission.net, download yourself some albums. We truly think you'll love their music, so we hope you'll support them and love them as much as we do. Dan, why don't you tell us what we got coming up next week, mon frere?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to take terrible Star Trek movies for 1,000, Alex, because Alex Trebek may not have been in Star Trek Insurrection like my sister Donna thinks he was, but that's not going to stop us from talking about that movie next week. So set course for the Briar Patch, Bill. Dougherty out.
Manual steering column. Can we just leave it at that? That'll be the whole episode. Is that phrase repeated 100 million times?
It's going to be the quickest episode ever.
Well, Dan, that's coming up next week. I would love to say I'm looking forward to that discussion, but I won't go that far.
Nothing like a good face stretching.
Yeah, right? I'm going to wish I had my face stretched for that one. Dan, of course, for more great Star Trek discussion, we hope everybody checks out the Tricorder Transmissions online at thetricordertransmissions.com. And, of course, everyone knows what I'm going to say next. For all the latest news on everything Star Trek, please visit our great friends at treknews.net. For now, this has been episode number 78 of the Trek Geeks Podcast. We do hope you all live long and prosper.
Coconut Studios, that was awesome.
Coconut!
Coconut!
Your face is good now.
Wow. That's not very nice. I don't know why you have to be like that.
You're not very nice. Do I sound okay?
All right, why is that happening?
Because your face?
No. I'm getting you on my speaker and in my headset.
Turn down your speaker.
So now I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Hold on. Talk to me.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but I hear them both still.
Turn down your speaker.
I know, that's what I'm doing, and it's turning down my headset as well. I've done it before. I got to figure out how to do it. Hold on.
You're the only person on the planet with this problem.
Really?
Yeah, really.
I don't know why it does that. I'm not going to worry about it too much, I don't think. Speakers.
Well, the only time it'll be a problem is if there's bleed through from your speaker to your microphone.
Yeah, I gotta figure this out.
Isn't there a physical volume on the front of the speaker?
No.
Really?
Right. There is not.
That's stupid.
You're stupid.
Oh,
Judy.
shut your face.
All right. So I don't know why has that not done that before.
Do you plug your headset into the speakers or into the computer?
Into the computer. It's an all-in-one, and it's not a USB. It's just a standard jack, headphone
8-inch.
jack. But I don't recall this doing this last week, so that's what's weird. Yes. And when I do that, I just muted, but now you're muted.
I am?
Well, I just turned it back on, so I can hear you again. Actually, hold on. I know. Hold on a second. All right. Now you're going to be through the speakers, so go ahead and talk to me.
How about now?
All right. Now I'm going to re-plug in my headset.
How about now? So I'm drinking a new flavor of coffee today.
What is it?
Toasted mocha marshmallow.
Oh, that sounds just awful.
Dude, it tastes like you're drinking a s'more, and it's amazing.
That's awesome.
You turned your nose up at brown sugar crumble donut, I might add.
No, I don't think I ever did because I love brown sugar. So I don't know if that's accurate. I don't think
you
that's
were like,
correct.
I'm not listening to that.
No, I don't.
I'm not drinking that.
No, that's wrong. I'm gonna have to call you out on that one. I don't believe that one.
Making all kinds of fake vomit noises.
Yeah, now I know you're making no sense at all.
I think at one point, you were just dry heaving.
All right, I don't know what we are going to do here.
Is there a microphone jack on your... Sorry, a headphone jack on your microphone?
I don't believe so. I don't see one. Nope.
That's too bad.
That would be kind of cool, wouldn't it?
Mine has one.
Well, you're better than I am in so many ways.
That's so true. I'm just glad you finally coming to that conclusion.
Oh, I've always known it. I just didn't want to make your ego bigger than your mouth.
What does that mean?
It means you got a big mouth.
That is so stupid.
You're stupid. You know what else is stupid?
Your face?
Your face.
Glad to see you're right on top of things today.
Have to be this time in the morning.
It's 10 o'clock.
I know. I got a gingerbread coffee. Speaking of coffees.
I'm sorry I woke you up before the crack of noon.
And I'm drinking it in my lovely new Disney's Fort Wilderness campground mug.
Well, I'm glad you finished that sentence because it sounded like you said nude Disney. And I'm like, what?
That's the new Disney. That's the new park.
Whoa.
That would be a little scary.
Yeah, little? Well, I guess in your case.
But
sick burn.
Yeah, sick burn. Ooh. Call the burn unit.
Because that was a sick burn, Dan.
Back to you in the studio. Jerk.